What is up, everyone, and welcome to TCR Live. One of the rare times this year we've been able to celebrate a victory, and not just any victory. Listen, when you're a Cardinals fan and you're not used to very many winning seasons, and you, like me, despise the Dallas Cowboys, like this win is kind of what you kind of get to enjoy every year. And I think what the Cardinals have won 8 of the last 9 meetings against the Cowboys. So it's like they have delivered, right? So like I went into this game weirdly kind of optimistic because of that history. You know, we're kind of like, I don't know what the Panthers were to us for that stretch. They are to we are to them, I guess.
Uh-huh.
And so they didn't disappoint, but they actually gave us some things to talk about. And dare I say, a word that starts with the letter H. We'll talk about that later. Kyler, how are you, dude?
I'm doing good, man. As you guys know, I live in Texas, so I did get the pleasure of going out with my brother-in-law last night to watch the game and to be in a room full of Dallas Cowboys fans and to feel the energy in the room
Mm,
just completely die was oh so beautiful. And to be the only Cardinals fan there to enjoy it was
chef's
it,
kiss.
it was just so sweet.
Yeah.
And I love everything bad that happens to the Dallas Cowboys. They deserve it. And we
Yes.
deserve this win because this was not a squeaker either. This was
Mm-mm.
a good win against one of the best offenses in the NFL. Granted, one of the worst defenses too. There's a tale of two halves there for the Dallas Cowboys, but still, in many ways, a quality win. Coming at the right moral time after a 5 game skid. So overall, pretty nice victory Tuesday so far.
We definitely needed that, and we'll definitely get into all that. Want to say hey to some of the folks who are in the chat. We got Silver Wolf, AZ. Let's go. Appreciate you being here. We've got Lorenzo hanging out with us. What's up? Sorry I missed the bye week. I thought you said you were not doing one. Love the win, but hate the nothingness that Monty pulled pulled today. Yeah, I think some people were hoping for a trade. I'm okay with standing pat. I definitely didn't think it made sense to bring anyone in. So who were you shipping out? We'll talk about one name people thought they might, but I didn't think that was going to happen because of contract reasons. But definitely excited about what we saw. We got Accelerator. Thanks for being here, Birds. Appreciate you hanging out with us. We got Rombo. I'm here. Thank you for being here. Blimey, or sorry, Bimini. An ultra rare victory Tuesday, right? We got Brian hanging out with us late, but here. Thank you for hanging out with us, Brian. Let's see. We've got who else we got? We've got Red Sea. We're gonna invoke your name a little bit earlier or later, Red Sea. Something you kind of been talked about. Um, uh, and then yeah, every time I hear Jerry's World, I think of Almost World. Yeah. And listen, Jerry Jones is probably one of the big reasons that I love to hate the Cowboys. There's other reasons, but but anyway. So listen, this is a really big game for the Cardinals. You talked about the Cowboys defense isn't great. My brother's a Broncos fan. And he talked about when they played them that they just totally ran gashed their defense, right? And it's like
Mhm.
easy mode running against them, which it was. But their offense is no joke, and Accelerator saying here saying the Cards are top 5 defense, no doubt anymore. It might be a little early to make that proclamation for me, but I will talk about the defense later. That there's some things about this game that I think are potentially telling when we get into that. So there's a lot to be excited about, but we got to jump to it because the big news that came out today, right, is has to do with Kyler Murray, right? There has been talk, about his injury. How bad is it? I know our buddy Aaron Van Buren had called a while back. He thought it was a Liz Frank injury. I think that which takes a while to heal. I don't know if there's real clarity. I've listened to some of the interviews with Gannon. The sense you get, I think, when you listen to that, is that he didn't know how, or they didn't know how long he was going to be out. and it's maybe starting to feel like maybe he was going to be out longer than they thought he would. And maybe, you wonder if they had known, if they would have put him on IR with designation return. Who knows? There's a lot of questions. But, he hadn't been playing. But, you know, there was the question that was posed by Gambo, right, on Gambo and Burns. Like, basically, he mentioned that Brissett would be starting. And the question was, well, if the injury weren't an issue, would Brissett still be starting? And Gannon kind of did some coach speak around that. He said, well, I don't like to talk in hypotheticals, but yeah, I like the way the offense is going. So he kind of breezed past it quickly. But if you read through the coach speak, the headline there is Kyler Murray would not be starting if he were healthy, is what people interpret that as. Real quick, want to thank Red Sea for the $5 super chat. Thank you so much. Major defensive takeaways. Walter Nolan is good at football. Absolutely. We'll come back to that because we're going to talk about Walter Nolan being good at football, right? And some other implications of it. Thank you so much for the super chat, Red Sea. So I want to start because I think everyone is running with that quote and interpreting that as Kyler Murray's benched, even if he's healthy. Kyler Murray era is over. And I'm not saying that's not the truth, but I don't think that question should go unexamined, right? Because coach speak is kind of funny sometimes. Gannon sometimes has a tendency to kind of blur the details. And let me say, I don't fault coaches for that. I know some people get annoyed. They want coaches to be up front. And I'm like, it's part of the game. And I get it. Like, you just want to, it does not bother me. I'll just say that. Okay. But we do have to kind of dig in. So Kyler, what do you think about the quote and the news? What does the news really mean about Kyler Murray?
My gut feeling is that there's a pretty decent chance that we've seen the last start out of Kyler Murray as a Cardinal. And talking about Jonathan Gannon's coach speak, he is up there with the best of them with it. He is very much not a forthcoming coach on especially injury things, but internal things he just does not talk about. Which, yeah, in some respects, I agree with you, and I respect that he never degrades anyone on his staff. He never degrades a player. Like he does the good coach thing, and he takes all the blame, and everything goes on him. I respect that. I respect a little bit less some of the injury stuff that he has done in the past, particularly BJ Ojulari's. Oh yeah, he's totally fine. He's had 0 setbacks. And then you find out from Ojulari himself that, he actually tore like every ligament in his knee, and it was a very, very terrible injury and all of that. So like, I really don't trust anything that comes out of Jonathan Gannon's mouth at this point. He is, if not openly lied, come very close to openly lying about several injury things in his tenure. So that's just what it's going to be with him. But the action of this does point to either it's a Liz Frank injury, which has like a 4 to 8 week recovery thing, and Murray's just going to be on the 8 week swing of that instead of the 4 week swing. Because that injury was now 3 weeks ago, and Seattle would have been 4 weeks, right? So, yeah, maybe he's not going to be at the top of that range for recovery from that type of injury. But also, my take on this, my interpretation of it, is setting this up as a continued injury problem is setting and laying the groundwork to eventually announce that Kyler Murray is going on IR, which saves you from having to answer tough questions about who your starter is based off talent or anything, or benching your franchise guy that you've supported your entire tenure so far. You don't have to say that. You don't have to get messy and say that you're benching your starter. And you also save him from any other potential injuries because you're saving him for an offseason trade, which is ultimately where I see this going. We'll probably get into more about that part of it later, but that is what I see right now. Laying the groundwork. The injury is worse than it seems. I will not be surprised if, especially if Brissett plays well in Seattle, that the week after I don't think they get another week of just saying, "Oh, he's still working on his health." I think they'll have to put him on IR at that point, or else it will be incredibly sketchy, and everyone will know what they're doing. But I kind of agree with the take that this is a soft benching, and he's headed for IR pretty soon.
Yeah. And Accelerator saying Gannon is muzzled by Bidwell, and um, maybe a little bit of that. I don't know if Bidwell does like to kind of keep, he likes a tight rein on the PR stuff. So maybe to some degree, I do think Gannon, though, a lot of that is of his own kind of
I think so.
unction. I think he just wants to be that way. But I tend to agree with you, and I want to talk about kind of how this plays out because yeah, I want to start with this. Like, I know we talked about the coach speak. People like to criticize that when coaches go back and forth. Listen, people change their minds. And also, people will say the things that are the right thing to say at the right time. And sometimes what the right thing to say is changes as situations change. And I'm saying that to set something up. I want to kind of walk through the timeline with Kyler Murray, okay? Because, when Jonathan Gannon took this job, he said, I don't take this job without Kyler Murray. Okay. And some people will look back at that and say, oh, he was lying, right? And then some people will say, well, he didn't pick this quarterback, so he was looking for his replacement all along the way. And I don't think either of those are really true. Here's the way I think it played out. When he was coming for this job, he interviewed for this job. I think he intended to try to make Kyler Murray work, and he knew that's what he had to do because this ownership group had just paid Kyler Murray a lot of money,
Yep.
and you were not going to be able to move off of Kyler Murray if you look at this contract till 2026, right?
Crazy.
Wow, crazy. So he knew he had to give it a good 3-year go. And you're not coming in, getting this job, telling the owner or your staff or yourself, hey, we're going to survive 3 years and then we're going to move off and then we're getting our guy. You don't come in with that plan. You come in really meaning we're going to try to make this work. We see what Kyler can do. We know this is the quarterback. There are some exciting skill sets, and those are all things that I believe are true. And I think Gannon came in intended to try to build an offense that could work for Kyler, that was run heavy, didn't make him, kind of have to play hero ball all the time. And they were going to try to make it work. And it didn't work really well. It had its moments. If the run game were working better, I think it could have worked this year. But I think he was trying to make it work. And then injuries and everything, it's not working. And now, they are planning to move on because he didn't draft him. It wasn't his guy. But I do think he was trying to make it work because that's what you have to do. And now he's seeing it's not working. We're getting close to an out, the injuries, and I think they are going to move on. You wanted to jump in there.
Yeah, and just real quick, I do want to say that I think it was a full faith effort on both parts.
Yes.
I think Kyler Murray also did his best to now exist in this scheme, and he had the unfortunate ACL injury in the middle of this whole time, so it's kind of a tale of two halves for Murray. At the very beginning, he was hurt. And then he's sort of slowly adjusted. And I think he's put in a full faith effort to exist in this system. And regardless, two parties can both be completely on board with each other and it's still not work. That happens all the time. And I think both parties, I don't think any nefarious things were going on or planning, conspiracizing to get rid of anyone. I don't think any of that was happening. I think it's just not going to work out with him.
I agree. I think there was a good faith effort on both parts. And unless something unexpected happens and Kyler's taking shots on his way out, I will have no hard feelings to Kyler. I feel like he tried his damnedest to fit in the system and do what they wanted him to do. I think he worked hard. I have no issues with what he tried to do. I just really think it wasn't the best fit.
Yeah.
For what they're trying to do. We've talked about that in recent weeks. And there's, I won't go into all that stuff now, but I think he tried and I think they tried. And
I agree.
And I think I get annoyed when I see people kind of taking pot shots and try to be snarky. And I'm
Why?
not wired that way. It's just, you know, but like, I think they tried and it didn't work. And I think I think, and I agree with what Accelerator's saying here. I think he's going to be successful somewhere. It's going to be a different type of offense, and it's going to be a team that's built differently and doesn't expect certain things of him and expects and builds on other things.
Yeah.
But it didn't work right here, right? And and our buddy Corey's saying, what are we going to have to divide us, right?
We'll find something.
Yeah,
I'm sure. I'm sure.
yeah, and he's saying, Corey was saying, Kyler liked Jacoby's Instagram post today. It's all love, like you boys are saying. Everyone wanted this to work, and then he's agreeing with Brian. Fan base will find a way to disagree on that, and that's the poetry of sports. Um, yeah, but I agree. I think this is, Kyler will be moving on. I think they're going to do it. I think they're going to trade him in the offseason. I think they will probably put him on the IR. I think they're setting that up like you say. And because there's nothing to gain from playing. There's not an audition.
Yeah.
The league knows who Kyler is, what his skill set is. They've got plenty of film. You're not going to go even like if it's not working in this offense really well, then it's probably not going to be great audition tape for the remaining weeks. You're better off to let Brissett have him on the IR and trade him for someone who knows what he is and thinks they can make it work.
Right? And if you already have the mindset, and I do think they do, that they'll be moving on from Kyler Murray in this offseason, then there is nothing to be gained from having him come back. Because right now you have the out. You have both options in your pocket right now. If the rest of the season goes horribly and we lose out or something, and you go, well, yeah, we were on a backup quarterback. What do you expect? Brissett played some good games, but he's a backup. Of course, we didn't win. Our quarterback was injured, and if he plays great, then you have this nice IR excuse of Kyler Murray's been he's been injured, but we're going to move off of him because Brissett is more the type of quarterback that we want, and we'll look in the draft or we'll look in trade options or whatever for that. Yeah. So keeping Murray on IR and not playing him, because what if in another scenario you bring him back in and Kyler Murray actually does play really well, and then you still trade him in the offseason? Like, then you look like kind of a joke of a franchise, which we kind of tend to be sometimes. So I don't see any potential benefit if you've mostly made the decision in your brain that this is his last year. Why would Kyler Murray ever see the field again?
And Brian, I think, raises the one argument is what happens if Jacoby gets hurt. Jacoby is taking hits. I still think, I mean, I could see it, but I still think if they've decided they're going to move on from Kyler, I lean in where you're going with this, Kyler Bird, in terms of probably, just kind of putting him on the IR to keep him safe. Now, and Accelerator is raising a question that you and I had kind of texted about, and I think I think this also
for that one.
Oh, good.
I looked up since 2000 all of the quarterbacks who have been traded for day one and day two picks, just to see what like similar names are out there, see what people were getting. And even in our own history, I kind of forgot that when we got rid of Josh Rosen, we did get a second rounder out of Josh Rosen. We got
which in retrospect,
oh yeah, oh my god, we got a second and a fifth round pick for Josh Rosen from the Dolphins when we moved on to Kyler Murray. So Kyler Murray is a starting caliber quarterback in the NFL, and they don't come cheap. That is the premium position. So I'll let you start, but let me look at my list.
Yeah. And Corey's asking if we don't find a trade partner, and have to cut him, does he bind a backup role another place? I mean, I think he's going to go somewhere, and if he's going to try to go someplace where there's a quicker path to starting, if he's not signed as a starter, he's going somewhere like, you think about Daniel Jones going to the Colts. There was still Anthony Richardson there, but like that was kind of a up in the air, and here we go, right? So I think he's going to first shoot for a starting job, and if he can't get a straight up starting job, he's going to go someplace where he has a chance, where there's a clearer path, right?
Right.
So, I know we talked in the past. I think the Jets, everyone's talking about as a team. Some people are talking the Vikings, with their quarterback situation. I have talked about the Steelers as a really intriguing fit there. There's maybe some other places, right? So yeah, Reginald, we also enjoyed the Cardinals whipping the Cowboys last night, though. I'm going to do a quick little rant, and I think you know where I'm going with this. Freaking YouTube TV and Disney, you bunch of billionaire corporations, get your shit together. I don't usually cuss on here, but like, I was so mad. I was texting Kyler, like, you know how mad I was. I
Yeah.
sat down to watch the game, and I didn't know it was all that stuff was going on, and it wouldn't work. And I did not get to watch the game live. I watched the replay. I have NFL Plus to watch the replays, but um, screw those guys. Anyway, that's
Agreed.
yes. But so yes, Kyler Murray, like, I want him to be successful somewhere. I have been a defender of him. I still think some of the criticisms have been unfair. I think there are limits to his game that we've talked about. Um, but I want him to be successful. I just think, as we've seen, Brissett shows the style that works best in this offense. And Brissett has played really well, but like, he is not a high end version of that player, right? Like,
Mhm.
I could see Brissett having a Geno Smith resurgence, like, and that would be like, the play style might be a little different, but that is, to me, the comp in terms of play skill level. Like, he's a smart quarterback. He's a wily veteran. But I don't think I don't think he's going to have a Darnold type of resurgence. But I could see a Geno Smith. But even at that, that's not the long term plan,
Yeah.
I think.
We've seen a lot of quarterbacks get second chance and have a huge resurgence just in the last few years.
Yeah,
Baker Mayfield at one point was like doing scout team stuff on the Panthers,
yeah.
and now Baker Mayfield's kind of a legitimate MVP candidate, and playing great football in Tampa Bay. And Sam Darnold, prime example. His career was dead in the water, and Daniel Jones too, someone that had been completely thrown into the trash heap of quarterback history, and is now leading the Colts to being like an actual contender in the AFC. So it happens. It just takes the right fit for quarterbacks.
It's been happening more recently, and as we talk about this, it just kind of a thought occurred to me. Um, if it feels like there, it maybe I have to wonder if this isn't a little bit of a market correction, because the quarterback market had become such a, like, you didn't have a lot of these kinds of guys being successful. You had a few, right?
Hmm.
But not to the level we've had in the last year or two. And
Yeah.
so the way things had gone is there, you could kind of put this as the Mahomes effect, really. I think people were so, like, of the mindset that you need to hit on the Mahomes Burrow guy, or you're out, or you're SOL, right?
Hmm.
And that's the only path. So how do you do that? Well, you find a guy with the talent, um, and who has the tools, and then you develop them. Brett Coleman had a video talking about this, right? Where people used to be looking for pro ready quarterbacks, but now what they're saying is, okay, you need to find the arm talent, the work ethic, and the right attitude, and you get them in the right situation, and they become like Mahomes. And then I feel like what you saw was the pendulum shifted too far that way. You had the Trey Lances, the Anthony Richardsons,
Yeah.
people going, like, people were going after that type of quarterback and trying to develop them. And sometimes it worked, but it hasn't worked all the time. And so, like, you've got so many teams that have kind of gone after that guy, and now it isn't working. But you also have people giving these big contracts, right?
Uh-huh.
To those guys who aren't quite, like the first Daniel Jones contract before, he resurrected his career. And I wonder, maybe teams going after the Baker Mayfields and the Sam Darnolds and the Daniel Jones's second stop is a market correction for people going too far in the other direction.
Yeah, I agree. It just what's wanted from a quarterback has gone through its shifting
Mhm.
periods too, going from old school, super traditional, 6'4" pocket passer can't move to save his
Mhm.
life, all the way to incredibly mobile quarterbacks, but lacking arm talent. And we've come and kind of hit the middle now
Yeah.
of where we have a lot of quarterbacks now that have all of those elements in their game. Now you
Yeah.
have Josh Allens who can do everything at an incredibly high level. Lamar's gotten better as a thrower, stuff like that. So stuff will even out.
Mhm.
But it has always surprised me that in the world of quarterbacks in the NFL, the standard for the best quarterbacks in college is to be drafted very high to what was usually one of the worst teams in the NFL,
Mm.
one of the worst situations. So either a staff that's failing and got a really high pick, or a brand new staff that is there because the previous one did really bad and got a high pick.
Mhm.
And where you're throwing in these guys who are great at the college level, but you're throwing 21-year-olds into the worst situations in football and still expecting them to completely change a franchise. And sometimes they do, but that has become the absolute exception, is that you were an absolutely terrible football team last year. Here, have a 21-year-old. He's going to fix absolutely everything for you.
Yeah.
And that's the expectation we put on Kyler Murray, too,
Mhm.
especially having just taken a quarterback the year before who we moved off of in 1 year to get the guy that the new coach wanted. And a 21-year-old kid coming in,
Mhm.
hey, fix everything for us.
Mhm.
And lots of times that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Um, it's has surprised me for the longest time that more teams don't view the quarterback position, the premium position in football, the hardest position in football, arguably the hardest position in professional sports, does not have more of a Green Bay type
Mm.
of method of this is the hardest one. You need to go to school to play quarterback here.
Yeah.
And it's actually worked out pretty well for Green Bay since they've had 3 freaking decades straight of pretty good quarterback play, including 2
Mhm.
Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
So can work out, but usually it's you need to fix your franchise immediately. And sometimes you'll get that diamond guy that can do it when you draft him number 1 overall, but more times than not, you don't, because the rest of your team sucks,
Mhm.
and you're trying to make a 21-year-old fix everything for you. So the way that the league values a quarterback position, they pay him a lot of money, but then also does not do a great job at setting them up for success.
Yeah. Real quick, I'm going to say hey to some of the other folks in the chat, and then we're going to kind of talk a little bit more about the quarterback position. Austin, we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but will Nolan be a top 10 defensive end by the end of the year? He had a great game, but thanks for being here, hanging out with us, Austin. We got a couple other folks that have popped in here. We got Calvin, the OG supporter of the channel. Thank you for being here. Well said. Thank you for hanging out with us. Obviously, Red Sea, who's I think we mentioned earlier. Grandizer doing what Grandizer does, being the best mod in the business, right? Thank you so much for all you do. And yes, please smash that like button. It does help. It does matter. And Brian saying Jacoby has some Ryan Tannehill type vibes, could be, right? Then we got Josh. Thanks for being here. Glad to see you too. Yeah, after a win, right? That's kind of exciting. We don't get a lot of those lately, right? So, talking about the quarterback position, I think you and I are in agreement that Kyler Murray is not his days are kind of done here, at least as a starter. I think we both agree. We don't fault him like for not trying. I mean, I think he put in the effort. It just didn't work. We both wish him well. So, what is the plan moving forward? What do you think is the plan at quarterback for 2026 and beyond, Kyler?
I foresee an off-season trade, and I don't have anyone in mind right now because I haven't been diving too deep into college stuff, but probably draft a guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I would not be surprised if it is a Brissett bridge year with a rookie quarterback. That's how I would handle it, just off my previous rant about throwing rookie quarterbacks to the wolves. And Brissett is playing well. He's the type of quarterback that this offense seems to want. Improve the defense even more in the offseason. Fix the offensive line, which you've talked about on these streams several times. If this next offseason sees Monty take the same amount of attention that he gave to the defense this year and applies it to the offensive line, that could be great. And a better protected Brissett could possibly go a long way. Fix that element, draft a rookie quarterback, and a bridge year of Brissett is the way that I see it being the smartest ran operation next year.
I think we. Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
Warm butter also can't fix you all by himself. So yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Did you have more you want to add to that before I jump in?
I'll address Nick real quick.
Yeah.
I can throw him up. I don't foresee that being a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Kyler Murray, just because he's not working out here, has a physical skill set and physical tools at his disposal that a lot of teams would kill for. Kyler Murray is not an untalented quarterback. Don't go into the cesspool of X or Twitter or whatever it is and just go off people who have made it their entire livelihood to just hate on Kyler Murray.
Mm-hmm.
That is so stupid. He is just a person who happens to be a professional athlete who does not line up well with the way our coaches want the team to be run. It does not mean he is a bad athlete. He will, I think, in the right situation, he will find success. I don't envision there being a problem finding a trade partner for Murray. Now, depends on what you're asking for, as it always does with trades. But I don't foresee that being a problem.
The Jets we've talked about, but they are an intriguing team because they've loaded up on some draft capital. And I was reading something earlier, and I think a lot of people have talked about this, that people perceive the 2027 draft class as better than 2026.
Yeah.
So I wonder what happens if the Jets, who have two first round picks next year and 3 in 2027, they have an obscene number of first round draft picks coming up. What happens if they're like, yeah, you know what? We'll throw a second round pick at Kyler, give him let's see. And if he hits for us, then we can use those picks to build around him. Mm-hmm. If he doesn't, his contract's easy to move off of by the time, they've got a bridge quarterback for the guy they draft in 2027, right? I mean, I could really see that. I could see that being a situation. Corey likes the Steelers' fit, which I really do too, because I think if you look at like I know some people aren't as big on Mike Tomlin as I am. I'm a big believer. Like some people say, well, he hasn't won a Super Bowl. Well, he hasn't won a Super Bowl since Ben Roethlisberger. But look at who he's had at quarterback, right? And Kyler would be better than most of the quarterbacks he's played with, and still he's never had a losing season. So I think that's a team where I could see it. But yeah, and Red Sea saying, draft class in 2027 much better. So I could see that being the situation, right?
Yeah.
But what I think the plan is, I think Brissett, I think Brissett, he's going to be the starter obviously for the rest of the season. I think that's going to be a little bit of an audition for him, but I think they know who he is. They've coached with him before. The coaches have played with him before. In Cleveland for Petzing was there, and I think he'll be the starter next year. And I think they see him as a guy who can be the bridge, but also a good enough starter, because they wanted to build a team that won with defense, running game, and then let Kyler do some Kyler things, but they didn't need Kyler to win games. And I think they can do that same thing with Brissett as far as, build the running game, a good defense, and then let Brissett kind of, do what he's doing. and they don't need him to carry the team. And Brissett's the ideal bridge quarterback. If they build the rest of the team right, they can actually win games with them. And then they draft someone, whether it be 2026 or 2027. And to your point, they don't have to let that player, they don't have to start that player. They can let, I think Brissett probably starts, unless he's injured, all of 2026. I think he's the starter, and they draft someone, and that person sits.
Okay. I hope that is how it goes. I hope
Yeah.
that the drafting piece is this draft, so that we still have Brissett and can get some experience that way and not have to start a rookie quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yes.
meltdown and apology, the Ryan Clark cycle, as we like to call it.
Yes. I never heard that before. That's awesome.
Such a joke.
Alona, thanks for being here. She is a super nice person. She's a Seahawks fan, comes in here, and is always just the kindest person. So thank you for hanging out with us, Alona. As and Bimmy mentioning, like I said, they picked up a lot of draft capital of the Jets. So anyway, sorry. Yeah.
The Jets have a 9 day 1 and 2 picks over the next 2 seasons. So they've got a lot of capital to play with. But yes, what you were saying, I would like to see the situation of draft a quarterback in this draft. I know people are saying 2027 is a better class, but projecting that 2 years out also does not have a ton of value, in my opinion. That can change so quickly.
Yeah.
And I don't see a ton of value in trying to project quarterback classes down the road. Take your best option this year that fits your scheme, your specific scheme, which brings us to a point that we can talk about now, I think. With Brissett starting and there being at least a good chance that something like what we're talking about is going to happen in the future, did Drew Petzing save his job?
Yeah. Like what else did the game show us, right? Everyone else really is kind of what that's. You and I texted back and forth on this, and we had a kind of a fun exchange on it. And I said, like, I forget what I said, but it's like, what if Petzing wasn't the problem? And I think you had a valid point, right? Kind of push back on that. Well, some of the play calling hasn't been great.
Yeah.
Right. Situationally, like I'm not gonna, and it's not even like some play calling. It's hard to like if a play doesn't work, that could be on the player, and that might not be the play calling. There's a difference between that and calling a running play on 3rd and long when you're down, right? Some of those are glaring.
Yeah.
And so that's the play calling where I'm like, yeah, okay, you have a point. Now listen, coaches can develop as players can, right? So if he's smart, has a good scheme, I know people don't feel like it's been a good scheme, but it might have been the fit, right?
Yeah.
Because it's looking better. So I'm not saying like I'm sold on Petzing, but it's been in the back of my mind for a while that maybe the situation just wasn't ideal, and maybe and in the play calling, this and that's a valid critique, right? Situational play calling, but maybe we see some things down the stretch here, and maybe I do think I think his job is safe because I know Kyler's going to be a little bit of a scapegoat for this. Is like kind of and some of that's fair, some of it's not. I do think, like we've talked about, I think we agree that there's legitimately the issues have been the fit, right? A lot of the issues, not all of them, but a lot of them. But what I think is with Kyler kind of being the sacrificial lamb, whether it's fair or justified or not, I think everyone else who was on the hook is getting a sort of a reprieve, a stay of execution.
Yeah. And I think for the most part, any scheme can work if every player in the system is a perfect fit for the system. If the play calling is good, you can make a lot of things work in the NFL. And that's why offensive schemes are so different from team to team. Many ways to skin a cat, and there are many ways to get to the answer, which is scoring points. And this scheme requires a really strong run game, which we, for whatever reason, don't have this year. Maybe it is as simple as Clayton Adams was just a god and the best offensive line coach we've ever had. And losing him was the greatest detriment to this team that we've seen in years. Maybe he's doing a hell of a job in Dallas, so he's clearly a good coach. But this year, not everything worked out perfectly. So I'm not saying that the scheme doesn't work or can't work. It absolutely can. But so many things have to go well for it to work that is really hard to guarantee or to even predict year to year what that's going to look like. So if he continues on into the future, I don't have a great deal of confidence that season to season we'll be able to predict what it's going to look like, because we all envisioned something quite different this year, even regardless of the James Conner and Trey Benson injuries. Still didn't expect this, and it took too many games now to where really the season it's not over technically, but you dug yourself a pretty significant hole, because it took you 8 weeks to figure out on the ride to the stadium, apparently, that you should get Marvin Harrison Jr. involved really early in the game and just throw him a bunch of balls. Every time that stat came up in the game and the broadcasters were talking about it, oh, this is a new record of receptions and targets for Marvin Harrison Jr., it filled me with rage, because you drafted a star receiver at number 4, and it takes you 2 years to find that out. So I just think Drew Petzing has limitations on his creativity, and his adaptability, and his situational play calling has been incredibly poor in some games.
Yeah. I think the rest of the season is going to be obviously pivotal. I know that's an easy
Mhm.
out, but I think if Brissett continues to look good and they continue to win games, and the offense and Marvin Harrison continue to look like what we had hoped, and it starts to work, then I think Petzing's going to be around, and it will chalk it up to he learned some lessons. He developed as an first time offensive coordinator, in this for this organization, and they have some things moving forward. Real quick, Josh has an interesting question about Mac Jones in the offseason. To me, Mac Jones feels like what maybe just a younger version of what Brissett brings. I
Mhm.
don't think he's the long and I get that, he's played well for the 49ers but that's also a team where quarterbacks tend to play well in that system.
Never
um
trust a San Francisco quarterback, because
yeah.
re- opposite of how we're talking about, this needs the perfect player
Mhm.
to fit everything, and every piece needs to be perfect, and then it can work. Kyle Shanahan can literally
Yeah.
make any quarterback work.
Yeah.
He's incredible.
So I think if I think probably not on Mac Jones unless Brissett walks, right? And I see where you're a cat for
Yeah,
$2. Thank you for the super
thank
chat.
you. Yeah.
I can be skinned many different ways. I appreciate whoever is our creative, uh, whoever is making all these quick profiles and in real time, kind of playing off the
I appreciate it.
yeah, we do. So thank you for the super chat and for the laugh, right? So yeah, Robert Moore saying Clancy made a great point on how to fix the offense. 20 targets per game split between Marvin Evans Jr. and McBride. Target those two better. Your two best pass catchers, go figure, right?
Yeah,
Really,
great.
your two best offensive playmakers with Connor injured, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I think we'll have to see what happens with the offense, but I want to shift gears a little bit because there's some things to be really excited about
Yeah,
with what came out of this game. And I want to talk about the defense because that's where I feel like we have seen Brissett playing well in the system. Right? We've seen this. What we saw offensively was just kind of the continuation of the trend of Brissett being a good fit, getting Marvin Harrison Jr. more involved, and except we were playing against a really bad defense, so we have to take that into account.
yeah, terrible defense. Oh my.
Right. So I don't want to get too excited about the offense based on one game. I'm excited about the win. I want to see what they do against better defenses, but I'm legitimately excited about the defense. And it's not like, how there are times where your defense or the Cardinals defense has had like a stretch of good games, but the players, we knew they didn't have all the players on the roster they wanted. They were in the rebuild process, or in year 1 or 2. You could go back this rebuild. You can go back to, under Kingsbury with Vance Joseph early in that stage, where the defense, there were stretches where they played well, but if you step back and looked at it, objectively speaking, we knew that just where they were in the roster building process, that it was a little bit of smoke and mirrors,
Right.
right? A little bit, and maybe that's on the give the coaches credit for that. But we're at a point where this team, and Monty Austin in particular, has done I think a really good job of improving the talent on this team. And this defensive side, it's young, so some of the players we're still waiting to see. Especially a couple of rookies like Will Johnson and Denzel Burke. But the pieces are there, and it's just a matter of them coming together and the young players stepping up. So, like, when you look at like this defense, now remember, 7 of those 17 points was a block punt, right? So the
Right.
Cardinals held the Dallas
10
Cowboys
points.
offense with 2 really good receivers and
Mhm.
a really good quarterback. Dak's a good quarterback, a good running back. I mean, a good offense. This is a really good offense. And they held them to 10 points of offensive production,
Mhm.
right?
The Cowboys have been averaging 29.2 points per game. They're second best scoring offense in the league right
Mhm.
now. So what the defense did in this game, we spent 40 minutes talking about the quarterback because that is a big deal, but that's way more impressive than what the offense did against a really bad defense. Uh, Dallas is the opposite, polar opposite in their offense. They're great and super efficient, and the defense played out of their minds. And like Az Jace is pointing out, Josh Sweat, for what he got paid, has been worth every single penny this season.
Mm.
And he really took advantage of that Terrence Steele matchup.
And Gary's saying that they decided to blitz a little more often. I don't think that's the only difference. I think that mattered some, and that
Mhm.
that we wanted to see that. But I think I also think though, and I think Brian to me captures this. This is the first game where we saw the defensive vision, but it's like the defense was also for the first time more or less at full strength. I mean, you could say Ojolari still up, but I don't even know how much of a part of the plan he is at this point, right?
Right.
Like Garrett Williams is back, right? Walter Nolan playing for the first time, right? You, you know, now, you had a few injuries, kind of here and there, but like our Max Melton went out with a concussion, but like even
Right.
at that, like the cornerback position, like there's a question of really should Max Melton be starting at this point with how Denzel Burke has played. Like Walter Nolan having a big impact. And Red Sea, I'm going to give you a shout out here. You had talked about in the Discord how Darius Robinson, was kind of has been playing more inside and was probably going to be moved outside when Roland came back. Uh and then, Robert, thanks. You're also mentioning that I pointed this out on Twitter that, and I crunched some numbers from PFF, but just did the percents in terms of snap alignment. Darius Robinson played 91.7% of his snaps on over the tackle or outside of the tackle, and 8.3% in the A or B gaps. In previous games, he had never played fewer than 22%, less than 22% on the A B gaps, and 22, 27, one game, 50%. And so he played more outside and did have his best graded game. Nolan's in being a disruptor, and Garrett Williams playing the slot allows everyone else to get into position. Jalen Thompson had been playing some at slot, right? And now other with Garrett Williams back where he belongs, with Will Johnson there, Denzel Burke had a 90.8, I think, PFF grade. 2 rookie cornerbacks with 90 PFF grades games.
Insane. Yeah.
Like, so like the defense, like it's not smoke and mirrors to me. I think like this is the first time we've had all these guys back, and the vision is working, right? And
Mhm.
so like I'm excited about that. Like this what we saw out of this defense, I think it could be real. Like, I mean, we
Mhm.
knew that they were doing something. They had some good coaching. I think Rouse is a good coach. I know last week, in the bye week thing, I kind of was like, hey, maybe we've been too easy on this coaching staff. But like now they got all their players back, and like it 10 points of offense from a team that on the road for us, right? At home for them.
Yeah.
So I am kind of excited about this defense.
Yeah, the defense looked legitimate, and one of the most notable things that I saw immediately is what the secondary looked like just with Garrett Williams back.
Mm.
Just with him covering that part of the field, it allows Buda Baker to kind of go back to what he's been doing, which is being the free ranging safety with doing what he wants is how it's been described. Reading the offense and doing what needs to be done. So he didn't like score out amazingly again, but he made some big plays and he looked a little bit more like himself to me from the eye test. But that also allowed the other cornerbacks to have really great games. And not that the secondary's even been playing poorly, I think, over the past few games. It hasn't been their fault. But it is a very good sign. Longtime listeners will have heard Joe talk several times about how PFF grading works and that a grade above a 60 is considered a good grade. You played well above a 60. And it is quite a good sign that in this game we had 13 players on defense graded above a 60. That's really good. That is quite good, in fact. And when you've got Cody Simon, who has not had the most impressive rookie season, let's say, and he's had his ups and downs. He grades out at a 92.5. He actually leads the team. Yeah, dude, the Buckeyes. Denzel Burke grading out at 90.8. Incredible for a rookie cornerback. Walter Nolan, rookie debut, first game he's ever played in the NFL, 81.7. And Josh Sweat rounds out the 80s with 81.5. And Will Johnson, 76.7. Still a really good game. So
Yeah.
I think that the defense proves to me that regardless of what happens and whatever you think about the coaching staff and everything, Monty Austinfort's been doing his job. The talent evaluation has been there because
Mhm.
we have a lot of really good young players on this side of the ball.
And the defense is excited about us too. Thanks, homie. The Cardinals defense has joined us for the
Thanks,
chat.
guys. Thanks.
Wow. Yeah, thank you. I mean, we're honored that the Cardinals defense showed up, right?
And you did show up this week. Thank
You
you.
showed up for
No
sure.
fourth quarter collapse this time.
Yes. A great rookie graded chart. The almighty chart must be glowing right now.
Well, I bet it is considering a fifth round cornerback
Yeah.
graded in the 90s. Will Johnson grading in the 90s. That was awesome, but also he's Will Johnson. He had expectations. He's national champion. And, well, I guess Denzel Burke's national champion too, come to think of it.
Yeah.
But a fifth round cornerback also playing that well. The young players on this defense are very, very exciting, and they are something worth being excited about.
And the old players too. Don't forget us old guys.
Calais had 2 sacks again.
Right.
He's still incredible, and I'm pretty sure this was the only game we've had this season with 5 sacks. Um,
Yeah. And Grandizer wants to hear the huffy. I busted out that voice. Oh, PFF grades suck. Like, no, listen, there. I know you've been wanting to hear that voice from Grandizer. I've been just looking for a chance to bring out the huffy. No, PFF grades aren't perfect, but they're a good tool. But anyway, yes, like the stock watch, right? Up or stock up, stock down. Like, I mean, real quick, I mean, Cody Simon had a really good game, 20 snaps, but 92.5, right? Denzel Burke stock is up. Walter Nolan stock is up. You could say like Jordan Birch's stock's down. He had a 37.9, hasn't really
yeah,
impressed so much for third round pick, has had a few good games earlier in the season, but it's been down. So Jordan Birch has, maybe not kind of done a lot, right? But a lot more stock up than stock down That's for sure, right? So,
All of your starting cornerbacks graded above a 70.
uh,
That's a very good secondary.
Max Melton had the lowest grade. He got injured. So I'd say your cornerbacks that had the most snaps, at least. I think
Yeah,
Max Melton came out for injury, right?
he
Uh,
did.
Grandizer enjoyed my PFF rant last year. um, yeah. So like like the defense and the young players and listen, I think Monty's done a great job drafting. I know there were some questions with, especially with Nolan not playing and with the struggles of, Marvin Harrison Jr., but we're seeing Marvin Harrison Jr. ball out now. And we're seeing,
He had a great
you know,
game.
right. Absolutely. We're seeing now that Nolan's playing, right. Like what he could potentially bring. Like that was like defensive linemen take some time sometimes to kind of get going. And his first game back as a rookie, coming back from injury, to play as well as he did is impressive. And he was good against the run, not just. In fact, he graded better against the run than against in terms of pass rush. So
Mhm.
the defense gave us a lot to be excited about. In terms of the game showing us with the. It didn't show us as much, I think, with the offense as we would like to think it did because of how bad their defense is.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, though, they did put up the points, right? They did take advantage of that, right?
Yeah, apparently,
Um,
Amari DiMarcado has earned the trust of the coaching staff back. He
you
he
know,
played a pretty big role, and he played well, actually, to his credit.
did you see that move on that touchdown? That was sick, right? It was just,
That was the moment in this bar that I was in where I
uh,
could feel everyone's dejection, and it felt so good.
yeah, yeah.
Felt so good.
Is there anything else that this game showed us from your perspective?
In a negative sense, it showed me that it is an absolute travesty that the team is 3-5 because there is talent on both sides of the ball, and
Mm-hmm.
being 3-5 is frankly inexcusable. There is no reason this team, with the talents on the team right now, should be 3-5. We should at worst be 4-4, and really we should probably be 5-3.
Yeah.
6-2 maybe. Like there's so many missed opportunities, and come the end of the season, because this is a very tough hole to dig out of, um it's probably likely that we don't make the playoffs this year,
Mm.
if I had to guess right now. It will be very hard to look back on that stretch of games and see all of the what ifs and the historically bad run that we had with 5 losses in a row by a combined 13, whatever it was. Um, that,
Yeah. So, like, I think we talked about this, and I tweeted about this, and some people misunderstood my tweet, but like this Cardinals team, like they still haven't lost by more than 4 points, right? Like,
yeah,
and they have not had a game where they just were like completely blown out, like at all, right? And they've had some frustrating losses, but like the point I kind of made was like this isn't like a terrible team. They're not as good as they weren't playing as a good team. They weren't closing out. But this is not like even though they lost to them, this is not a team like like the Titans, right?
this isn't even a 2018 version of the Cardinals
Yeah,
or
yeah.
a 2021 or 2022 version of the Cardinals. There's talent there, which makes it even more frustrating.
This team is really close to being a good
Yeah,
team, and the close losses show you that, right? And some people they mistook that as like some sort of silver lining moral victories, and you've said
no,
it and I'm with you. We're past the point of moral victory, so they have not done it, right? They have not lived up to the expectations, and I am not letting them off the hook on that. They should have sealed those deals and they didn't. But there is another layer of nuance to this, that this is also not a team that we need to tear down and rebuild. It's to bring it down to the studs and rebuild it, right? It's not a bad team in terms of the roster. They just need to get some things right. Maybe the quarterback position is what they need to get right. But like they can turn it around kind of quickly because they're a few points away from already being a contending team. So I'm going to dare to have the audacity to ask the question, Kyler, is there renewed hope this season?
No. Not for this season. In my most realistic interpretation of how the rest of this year can go, and based on the games that we have left, is there real hope for accomplishing anything this year? No. As is the tale as old as time. If you're a Cardinals fan, there are positives. There's a reason to have some pre-hope for 2026. If they somehow manage to make the playoffs after that 5-game skid, this will go into the books as possibly the second greatest Cardinals season of all time, right after the 2008 Super Bowl run. Genuinely, for the terrible moral destruction of that 5-game stretch, to come out of that and still make the playoffs. Is it possible? Yes. Is it likely? Probably not. But maybe it's too harsh to say there's no hope at all. There's good elements of this team, and it is not like those totally terrible 3-13 seasons that we've had in the past. But for going into this year with that expectation, I don't think you can come away from 2025 and not see it as a disappointment.
I have a little more optimism now than I did before, a lot more than I had before, and probably a little more than you. I am not predicting that they go on a historic run. I'm not predicting that, but I also think it's possible. Because we've talked about the talent, like is better, right, than the record, but something wasn't working, and if it really is that what wasn't working is the type of quarterback that they had and wasn't working, but everything else, but now that they've got the kind of quarterback they want, the defense is healthy, and the offense is starting to work, and the defense is going to potentially take that next step. And that this game giving up 10 offensive points to the Cowboys isn't a fluke. They have to beat teams that no one's going to predict them to win.
Yeah.
Right. They have to beat teams that some people think they have no business beating. Right. They're like the games they have left at Seattle, 49ers at home, Jaguars at home, at the Buccaneers, Rams at home, at the Texans, Falcons at home, at the Bengals, at the Rams. Right. Like, okay, you look at that, you're like, okay, Falcons, if they're really on track, they should be able to beat them. Right. The Bengals have, they've been overachieving with their quarterback injury situation, but you think that's a team you should be able to win. Jaguars have a winning record, but they're beatable, right? But you have to come away with wins against 49ers, Rams, Texans, right? Seahawks, Buccaneers, those are good teams, and they're not going to be favored in those games unless they go on a run and start winning some respect, right?
Right.
So I am not predicting that. But like this defense that held the Cowboys to 10, right? If offensive points, if that defense continues to play like that, and this offense does enough, and they were already close to winning so many games, and they're really just a better quarterback play or better quarterback fit away from being a 6-win team right now, like it becomes more feasible that they actually are in the league to the right that they can hang with these teams.
Yeah.
I think it's possible. I'm not predicting it. I'm just saying it is not like the roster 2 years ago is trying to go on this run, right?
Yeah. I would be willing to talk about hope if
Yeah.
we beat Seattle on the road next week.
Yeah.
Truly then seeing that against Sam Darnold led Seahawks look great right now.
Mm-hmm.
The dude threw 4 touchdowns in 2 quarters on Sunday. They are humming and they're functioning really well. Doing that on the road at Seattle and getting a divisional win, I will then allow a tiny element of hope to creep back in to my black shriveled heart. But until then, I'm not going to overanalyze the Dallas game
Mhm.
because there is a weird element of we just always beat Dallas. Some things in the NFL you truly can't explain. Don't know what it is. We have their number. Um, but it is possible. I mean, there is some fairly recent precedents for it. Like 2020, Washington started like 1-5, and they ended up making the playoffs. But that was the weird year that they made the playoffs with like a 7-9 record. Um, the Colts did it in 2018 too. Actually, they started 1-5. They ended 10-6, and they actually beat the Texans in the wild card that year. So, like, has it happened? Yes.
Yeah.
Do I, as a Cardinals fan, think that's going to happen to us? No.
Yeah.
But it's because I've never seen anything that's gives me hope for the future. Being a fan of this franchise.
And I think you're right. And Robert here, I think I agree. Like if the Cardinals beat the Seahawks in Seattle, a Seahawks team that's, been
Yeah.
hot with a quarterback that is MVP conversation, who's
Yeah.
listen, Darnold has proved me wrong. I thought he
Me
was going to
too.
go to Seattle. I thought it was much more like listen, what happened in Minnesota, I think set this up, but he's learned something there. I
Mhm.
thought he would go into Seattle and be not as good as he was in Minnesota, but be better than he was anywhere else
I
besides
clowned
Minnesota.
the Sam
Yeah.
Darnold
Yeah.
signing. I will fully admit that,
Yeah.
and he has proven me wrong, man.
Yeah.
He's looked incredible.
If the Cardinals go in there and beat the Seahawks, not only does mathematically put us back on track to the possibility,
Mhm.
it gives us qualitatively,
Yeah.
right? The idea that, okay, wait, we just beat a team that, a good team on the road. I mean, the Cowboys, their defense, we know what's going on with that, right? And just one game could just be a fluke. But if we go in there and beat Seattle, I think that becomes a very different conversation. I agree with that, right?
And
So,
maybe that there is an element of hope there that in the losses that we've had, minus the absolutely embarrassing one to the Titans, that's an actual travesty. Um, there are some pretty good teams in there. Don't know
yeah.
what to make of the Packers yet. They've been kind of weird the past few weeks, but we played Seattle and we played San Francisco, and none of these games got crazy out of our control. Never at any point were the Cardinals so far behind that they looked like, oh my god, they're just so outmatched.
Mhm.
Which, considering what Seattle just did to who did they play? The Giants? No, that was San Francisco. I can't remember who they played. But they put up 4 touchdowns on them in 2 quarters, so we can go back to that. They did not do that to us. They beat us on
The
a last
Commanders.
okay, the Commanders. They beat us on a last-second field goal because of the stupid new kicking rules.
Mhm.
So, and we consider Seattle a very good team right now. Like they're kind of one of the leaders in the NFC probably.
Yeah.
And they barely eked out a 1-point win against us. If we can go and flip the script and actually get a win like this on them on the road again, I will feel something akin to hope.
Yeah. I want to get a couple of comments, and folks, I know we're kind of at that hour and change time, so we're probably going to wrap this up. But real quick, Lance, thanks for being here. Lance been a part of our TCR community for a long time. And if our defense plays like it can, our offense plays efficiency, we win the game in Seattle. Here's hoping. Decimus, good point. Like, listen, Brissett was taking some. He's a big, strong quarterback, who can take those hits. But there is a point, right? We
Hmm.
definitely have to fix that the offensive line in particular, or he could be interested. You make a good point here. He was doing a good job hanging in there, but there's a point where you can't keep. Um, so listen, so like, is there renewed hope? For me, there's a glimmer. Let's before this game, I felt like the season was toast, toast, toast. Now I feel like there's a sliver. I'm not predicting they turn it completely around. But I can see a path that I didn't see before. You're not there yet, and I do not uh, blame you.
I think this team can win. I
Yes,
just won't put my faith in them to win yet until they show me. The talent's
that's
there.
fair.
The capability is there. I won't deny that.
I'm gonna go a little bit out on a limb here, but I think I'm right, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. What I do think we're on the page on is we have much more faith in regime than we did before this game.
I think that's true. Yeah.
Like maybe Petzing is still on the fence. Jonathan Gannon, I have more hope than I did before. We were really at a
Yeah.
low point with the Demarcado and his response in that game.
Yeah.
Um, I've not I'm critiques, but I'm especially when we see how this are working, it's really renewed my belief in Monty,
Mhm.
and I'm more optimistic about Gannon than I was in the recent weeks. But I feel like while we might still be like, we got to see the Seattle game for the team, the 2025 season, our hopes for that are still too yet for me. Yeah, but still, but the regime, I think we have. I think this game a little more optimism about the regime.
I agree with that. I
Yeah,
pre bye week I was ready to fire everyone. So I am more at ease with seeing them come back for another year. Oh yeah, I
yeah.
saw that. It was
I think it's a thimble
that's
Kool
fair.
Aid. I'm not even at a shot yet, but I've got a thimble. And before there was no Kool Aid in the cabinet,
Yeah.
none in the pantry. Now there's a thimble. So, well, we've gone a little over an hour, almost an hour and a quarter now. I think,
Yeah.
Mr. Bird. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we get out of here?
No, I think I'm trying not to put too much into this game. I'm very happy we got the win, of course. But we saw some good things. Um, in the long term, moving off of Kyler Murray is probably the right choice, which is really difficult for me to say. I was a big Kyler Murray supporter, and
Me
I
too.
will still support him wherever he goes. And I think he absolutely has a future in this league. It's just not with us.
Yeah.
So it is kind of hard to say goodbye to a 7 year relationship, but I think it's going to be over soon. So I think it's the right decision too. And coming to terms with that has been kind of hard, but I think it's the right choice for this year. Right now, Brissett gives us the better chance to win, and I'm excited to see if he does because I think he's a great guy too. I'd love to
Yeah.
see him succeed. So um, I'm very interested what the future will look like, and I think we have better hope if we just settle in on one. And you don't want a quarterback controversy hanging over your head. So, like I
Yeah.
said at the beginning of this, I kind of envision Kyler Murray going on to IR, and that will be the end of his days with us. So, a little bit sad about that, but I'm at least now intrigued on what the rest of the season will look like instead of being completely browbeaten and depressed.
I'm with you. And I've been a Kyler Murray defender. And again, will still defend that I think he did everything they asked. I think he can be a good quarterback in the right situation, not as good as we needed him to be. But there is something exciting about, okay, what is next?
Hmm.
Like, quarterback wise. Right. And I know
Yeah,
it could also be a lot of listen, there were a lot of years of bad quarterbacking, and there are teams that have been through that who are like, be careful what you wish for.
yeah.
But there's a little excitement about what's next, so
Hey,
we'll see.
early plug, mock draft Mondays. They're gonna be intense this year.
They will indeed.
There will be lots of quarterback tape. I hope Dana is already looking at quarterbacks so she can help me out.
Yes, I'm sure Red Sea is as well. So yeah, watch for that. That'll be coming before you know it, right? Returning early? Question mark.
Maybe we have
Um,
a preview stream sometime, like
Maybe.
way before. We'll see.
Yes, yes. Well, listen. Thank you all for jumping in with us, hanging out with us. Kyler, behind the scenes, people don't know this. We weren't sure if we were going to do a stream this week. I was having internet issues, which have not real. I think they're fixed. Here's hoping. But yeah, we're back. there's some things to kind of. I have a reason to pay attention still this season. I want to see what happens, right? So, one quick question: what quarterbacks looking at? Well, actually, I haven't looked at them closely, so I don't really have an answer on that. I do think, like we talked about before, Brissett 2026 as a Brit, as I think starts the whole season, and they draft someone to develop. But we'll definitely listen. There's going to be mock draft Monday. Is going to be so much quarterback talk, so much quarterback talk. So
yeah, there will be a lot of that, no doubt.
Well, listen, make sure you follow Kyler Bird on Twitter. Grandizer has been putting into the chat all the places to follow us. You know where to find me. We will see y'all next week. Everyone, be safe, be well, and peace.